Here's some good. Deshaun Jackson, Delaware State head coach, was on the All Facts No Breaks podcast and gave a little credit to the one and only former teammate of LaVar Arrington, Deion Sanders.
Coach Prime, man, I can't stress enough about how he's opened doors up for guys like myself. You know, we talked about Michael Vick being in Norfolk. We played this year, so, you know, just being able to learn from guys like him that's been in the HBCU when he was at Jackson State, now he at Colorado, like, you know, this is a stepping stone for me. Obviously, I want to come there. They only won 2 games in the past 2 years. You know what I'm saying? So I'm coming into a situation I can't do no worse. And I'm a bet on myself. Ain't no shoe too big for me to fill.
Right.
So with that being said, like, I feel like the foundation is set. You know, it's just on me to put certain, around and get to, we got to get it on.
So he points out that Coach Prime sort of opened up the doors for a lot of people. And it does feel that way, that his success or the popularity of it, all of a sudden you're starting to see former players get opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have gotten before because they realize, hey, this actually might work if you go this direction.
All of a sudden people are paying attention to these former players that are putting in the work. I mean, there have been plenty of former players that have transitioned straight into coaching. None have ever been as high profile as Deion Sanders. And to see someone have the success that Prime had, I would assume is very inspiring to a lot of people. We saw Mike Singletary take on coaching, and it didn't work out very well for him. And it wasn't that he wasn't a very, very amazing football mind. It was just that the things that I heard criticisms wise in terms of what he represented was he wanted you to adopt his mentality fully, and understanding that adopting a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest football players to ever play the game at their position, that's a hard deal to fill, right? Like you're not going to get, even at the pro level, you're not going to get very many guys that can raise their level of expectation and their level of play and their mindset to that of one of Mike Singletary. And I think if people were being honest, that might have been why Mike Singletary struggled as a coach, because he understood the structure, he understood delegating, he understood a lot about what the profession consisted of. I just don't think that his way of being able to connect with those athletes it wasn't modified, it wasn't flexible enough for him to get the results, because the results were never going to be as good as he would wanted them to have been. And if I'm speaking out of term and he hears this, I apologize if I'm off. This is just what I've heard. And I'll preface by saying that, or I'll say that post saying this, because that's just what I've heard. And when you get guys, I've been around Prime. I was around Prime when Shador and Shiloh were still playing Pee Wee League football. And one thing, again, I always say this because people don't realize it, is Deion Sanders was coaching his kids from the time they started football. He created the Truth League so that he could train and teach his kids football. Even when Deion Jr. was a baby, Prime used to have Deion Jr. dressed in full equipment. When we had full workout days at training camp, young Deion Jr. would be in full gear, Redskins gear, helmet, pads, uniform. And he would go through stretches with us. He went through individual drills, and he was a baby. He was like he couldn't have been no more than 7, 8 years old. And he had his kid with him doing the stretches, doing the individual drills in the pros as a baby. So he has invested in his coaching and teaching and mentoring of his kids since they were little. He has been a coach at the youth level. He has been a coach at the high school level, and now a coach at the college level. So this is something that Deion Sanders has been building for years. People think that Deion, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. The one thing about Deion is his work ethic is crazy. It is crazy. And if you don't realize all he's put in, he built his coaching staff through the years, Jonas. The guys that coach with him, the vast majority of those guys have been with him for a very, very long time. I say all this to say, I think it's great that Deion has created this wave and created this light that has been shed on HBCUs for them to go there, for guys like a Deshaun Jackson and guys like Mike Vick, Eddie George did it. Quietly, Eddie George is having – I think he's on the path to going to coach Ohio State. I really do, but that's a whole nother conversation.
You and I were talking about that. He interviewed for the Bears job this past hiring cycle. He
is doing one hell of a job, and it's led to him getting Bowling Green. Bowling Green lands in Ohio. Ohio is, well, it's Ohio.
Yeah.
And Eddie George is a Heisman Trophy winner for Ohio State. And, well, Ryan Day just won a national title. It'd be blasphemous and crazy to say he's going to get that job. But think about if Eddie George continues to have the success that he's having and Ryan Day has one loss or two losses a year, they might be talking about getting rid of him. He's positioning himself very nicely. And these other guys are having the opportunity to position themselves very nicely. The caution is don't underestimate the amount of work and the amount of time that Deion Sanders has put and invested in being able to understand these kids, understand coaching, understand the values and the level of what it takes to be able to run a successful organization, a successful team, a successful program. And all he has done is taken the model that he's built through the years and has continuously implemented it. Jackson State implemented it. Colorado implemented it. He has not done anything differently than what he's done all along. It's just that people weren't paying attention to it. Even with Deion Jr. doing the content and all those things, they've been doing that since before Jackson State. He's been doing content like this. They've been doing this content for a long time. So that's why it was weird to me when people were getting offended by the way he was doing things. They had already been doing this. They had a TV show. The Truth League was on the TV show. It was showing all the different things that they were doing. It started there. So my caution to and just err on the side of understanding that every single one of these guys is not going to play out like Deion Sanders.
No.
In fact, you can't sit there and expect that it's going to happen because I don't know what the coaching backgrounds of these guys are. I know Deshaun Watson and I know Michael Vick know the game very, very well, can dissect the game, can look at the game, but can they game plan? How are their coaches? I know they got star-studded coaches like Clinton Portis and guys like that are on the coaching staffs that these guys have. But are they really genuinely, are they experienced enough to take on the level of coaching that they've been allotted the opportunity to be able to do? We're going to find out.
Well, it's like the Sean McVay stuff. When Sean McVay worked with the Rams, because I remember being out here and the reporting on Sean McVay's interview with the Rams was they brought him in. He was with Washington. He was an assistant there. They bring him in, they interview him. They were so blown away, they brought him back for a second interview, and then they hired him. That worked because he revived Jared Goff's career. He got Jared Goff on track, and the rest was history. And then all of a sudden it became whoever was buddies with Sean McVay was going to get a job. Like that became the new trend, the new popular move. But not all of them worked. Not all of them worked like Sean McVay's worked. He's won a Super Bowl. So, Matt LaFleur, things like there's been some success. So, yeah, to your point, they're not all going to work out like Deion, but much like Sean McVay, you needed somebody to kick in the door to get people to think differently about hiring. And Deion's at least done that. And for anybody that wonders whether or not Deion's been a success because they haven't won a national title, blah, whatever, if it wasn't a success and it hasn't worked to at least some degree, then why are so many other schools all of a sudden now doing similar things, like hiring a Deshaun Jackson, like giving these guys opportunities because they realize, hey, maybe unlike a Mike Singletary back in the day, maybe this is the path to be able to connect with younger athletes, especially in today's NIL recruiting world. You've got to bring in somebody different than your typical coach from back in the day, and at least Deion opened the door for that.
Hey, man, players over X's and O's. So one thing I will say about those two names that you will not debate is their influence. People out here love Deshaun Jackson. He played at Long Beach Poly. He's from California, Southern Cal. People love him. He crushed it as a Philadelphia Eagle. People love him as a Philadelphia Eagle. He did well as a Washington Redskin. People love him in Washington, D.C. And we don't even have to go there about Mike Vick. He's an iconic figure.
Yeah.
And for all the people that hate him for his transgressions, there are a lot of people that love him even more because of the comeback story that was everything that he went through. The value of what they bring to the table is their celebrity and their influence. They will be able to get some of the best football players in the country because the transfer portal and the NIL has totally changed the college space. So you're going to get some really, really fine football players that get lost in all of this. And some of the best football players don't make it to the next level because for one reason or another, they're just not exposed enough. These types of situations and opportunity allow for a player to find his way to exposure. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen right now. Deion is going to be a support to a Michael Vick, to a Deshaun Jackson. Other coaches are going to be a tremendous support because of their love and admiration and respect for those two guys in particular. And they are going to feed athletes like, we can't get this kid this year, but if you could get a hold of him, get him, and we'll come get him off of you in a couple years. They are going to become the factories for these larger universities until they have enough success to go transition to a larger university.
You know, what the hell happened with Ed Reed? Remember he was at Bethune-Cookman and the deal fell through.
It just never came back around. I mean, he was so throwed off. That upset him so bad that he walked away.
He's the offensive coordinator at a high school in the Atlanta area, from my understanding. That's the last that I had heard. But that's a guy who you would look at and go, talk to anybody about, does he have a mind for the game? Is that guy a leader? As we talk about, Lamar Jackson and Ed Reed feels like that's a name that you would look at and want to hire. But maybe he was so disenchanted by the process.
He'll pop up, though.
Yeah.
He'll pop up. He'll pop back up. If he really wants to do it, he'll pop. And that man, he's a brilliant football mind.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, he's a relatable guy. He's been in the community. He's built very, very deep roots in the community with his foundational work and different things like that. He's got a great team of people around him. Again, I think it's the guys that bring an infrastructure to the table that are going to be the ones that have success. If you don't have an infrastructure, I don't care how good your influence is on the kids, it's going to fall flat when you play against a real program that has those elements in play. Again, like I said, we're going to find out what types of coaches these guys are and give them a little grace, give them an opportunity to be able to figure it out as well. I think that it'll be a good learning situation for anybody who's thinking about getting into coaching.